Hi, welcome to Yairn. This is my creative roundup of everything that I've made this month. My name's Fiona, and I'm a Scottish American designer living in the Scottish Highlands. I love to knit, crochet, sew, and spin. I also love to explore this beautiful area that I live in, do some natural dyeing and foraging. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, please grab a drink, settle in, and let's get started. I thought I would talk a little bit about why I'm doing this YouTube channel. It definitely was never something that I thought I would do, but this year, a gift that I received from my mother at Christmas really changed everything for me. She gave me this gift a few days late because she hadn't finished it, which at the time I didn't know. I thought it was just maybe something that hadn't arrived in the mail. And I opened it up, and it's this beautiful cream wool sweater. And the funny thing is, I thought it must have come from one of my favorite boutiques because it was just so lovely. But she pretty quickly told me that she had made it herself, which was an absolute shock because she hadn't done any knitting for decades. But this sweater just looked so perfect to me. So I didn't know it at the time, but she had actually selected one of the most trendy and influential knitwear designers out there right now, which is Petit Knit. So she made me the Louvre Sweater. And I only learned this because after she gave me this sweater, I went on kind of like a deep dive of the knitting world and all the different vloggers and all the fabulous content out there, and just kind of took in everything really, really voraciously. And I learned pretty quickly that Petit Knit is incredibly popular and that they have really wonderful, or she has, I should say, really wonderful patterns to choose from. Some really popular kind of classics. People love the cumulus blouse, the novice sweater, the Monday sweater. I have not chosen my first pattern that I'd like to complete of Petit Knits, but I do have some ideas which I'll share at the end. The first sweater that I am taking on is the Roma Cardigan by Mochi Knits. And I chose this sweater purely based on the photographs and the design. I absolutely love the slipped stockinette pattern. I think it creates this really nice kind of texture of the slightly larger knit stitches in columns against the tighter knit stitches. And when I picked this pattern, I didn't really know that it was more of an intermediate pattern, which has caused some difficulties. I think I cast this sweater on at least 10 times and had to frog it out because I could not figure out how to do the increases. I had never done increases before, so that was kind of the starting point of the challenge. But then I think what really I got hung up on was the slipped stitch pattern. When you're looking at that on the wrong side, I don't think it's super clear as to where you're supposed to kind of pick up stitches, because oftentimes you have that slipped stitch kind of carrying across in front of the stitch you're supposed to be picking up. So I think that was the biggest challenge for me. So just a little bit more information about this sweater. It is knit top down. So you start with the back yoke, you do some shoulder shaping, and then you move into the front yoke. You join the two yokes at the armpits, and then you work to the desired length. So it comes in sizes 1 through 7, and it has a bust circumference range of 82 centimeters to 126 centimeters. It also has 15 to 17 centimeters of positive ease. The gauge is 21 stitches and 36 rows, which is 4 inches in your slipped stockinette. So I did this exactly as the pattern recommends, and I'm super happy with how my gauge swatch turned out and super excited to get started on the body of this garment, which I think is just going to be so fun to knit up once I get past these increases. So the recommended yarn for this is My Finest Surrey, and that is a blend of 53% alpaca surrey, 27% silk, and 20% cotton. For my Roma cardigan, I'm using Snefnug yarn by Kama Rose in the color red 7870. And Snefnug means snowflake, which I think is fitting because it's very, very light and airy and fluffy and so nice. It's 55% baby alpaca, 35% organic cotton, and 10% fine merino wool. I actually got this from a absolutely fabulous yarn shop in Fife called Tribe Yarns. I will link them in the description. They have just an absolutely stunning selection of some of the nicest yarns I've ever seen. And I told them what pattern I was using, and they suggested this yarn. I'm so happy that they did. It was on a bit of the pricier scale, but I think for me, because I'm choosing not to buy fast fashion, I am more comfortable spending a little bit more on something that's going to be a piece that I wear for many, many years that I cherish because I made it myself. So that's not going to be the case for every project, but I think sometimes it is worth spending a little bit more on fiber that you absolutely adore. So the next sweater that I'm working on is sweater number 17 by Daisy in Peace. And this is a designer that I don't really hear people talking about very much, but I do think that her designs are really beautiful and worth taking a look at. She has a mix of crochet and knit patterns, which I think is great. And I did find that her crochet patterns use some knit techniques. So for example, I'm currently wearing her vest number 28, which I made a few months ago. And it includes some short row shaping here at the neckline, which I had never done in a crochet pattern. I think it's much more typical in a knit pattern, but it was really, really fun to do, and I absolutely love the results. So this pattern, just to talk about this quickly before I move into my new sweater, was crocheted in panels. So you crocheted an identical front panel and back panel, and then you crocheted these ribbed bands, and they get sewn on after. So you put the whole thing together by sewing it together. And I really, really enjoyed making this sweater, or making this vest. Sorry, I keep calling it a sweater. Sweater obsessed. So to jump over to the new project, I'm working on sweater number 17. And this one is worked flat as well, bottom up, and then assembled together. And I would call this one more of an intermediate pattern. So it's actually a bit more straightforward than the Roma cardigan. The recommended yarn is Yarn Art Merino Sport. I am using Adriaphil Llama. I have that here. It's a beautiful dark charcoal fiber, and it's 50% llama and 50% wool. So next up, I want to talk about some future knitting plans. I think one of the items that has been on my mind ever since I saw it was the Hug Me Tight tee by Teplo Knitwear. I think it's an absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous design. I love how it fits, and I love the vintage feel to it. It's a fitted top-down ribbed tee with raglan shaping and a 2x2 rib pattern. The yarns that are recommended for this are Knitting for Olive, Merino, the Cotton Merino, or the Sandnes Garn Sunday. So I haven't knit with any of those yet, but I know they're extremely popular. So if you've made this particular design, or if you've worked with any of those yarns, please let me know what you'd recommend. I would absolutely love to hear from you. Also, if there's any other projects or patterns that you think I would like, please send them over. The last couple knitting plans that I have that are really just the beginnings of concepts are something with this beautiful rust double knit 100% Scottish wool that I purchased when I was recently up north of Inverness in Sutherland from Kincraig Fibers, or Fabric, sorry. So my plan with this, because it is very much my husband's coloring, is to potentially make him an Oslo hat by Petit Knit. So if you have any other ideas for this, please let me know. I think I have 5 skeins of 100 grams. And then the last yarn that I've acquired is a 4-ply yarn, also from Kincraig Fabrics, in this beautiful lime color, which I just think is so stunning. So I have a little bit more of this, so if you have any ideas, or I would be excited to maybe make a sweater where I hold this with a mohair or something like that. So if you have any ideas for this or patterns you think would be great, let me know. I think 4-ply is essentially a fingering weight, so keep that in mind. That's it for knitting. I wanted to move on to sewing. I recently completed the Olympia Dress by Thrills and Stitches. And I really enjoyed making this dress because I decided to make it out of different scraps of tartan fabric that I had laying around that I didn't have any good ideas for exactly what to do with it. But I saw this dress pattern and I saw the way that it was kind of constructed in these panels, and I thought it would be a really interesting patchwork style dress. So I just went for it. I picked out the tartans that I liked. I laid them out in a way that I thought looked really interesting. And I really wanted this dress to be something fun and carefree that I can wear to ceilidhs and parties in the Highlands. I love how this turned out. It has a gathered bust, so there was no darts required, and then it has a dropped, almost basque waist with a gathered A-line skirt. I'm in love with this dress. I think it's so fun, and I really enjoyed the pattern as well. I will make this again at some point in some other fabric, maybe a cute summery version. The last thing I wanted to talk about, last but not least, is spinning. So in May, we had some of the most spectacular weather we've had in a long time. It was beautifully sunny and warm, so it was a perfect opportunity to get my wheel outside and to get some spinning practice. There's nothing more magical than taking some wool outside and just zoning out and getting into the flow of spinning. I really love it. I recently acquired a Ashford traditional single drive spinning wheel from a local auction house. And I bought it sight unseen, which was a big gamble because these are not inexpensive items. And they're also highly functional items that really need to be in good working order. You really can't be missing a component or a component be broken, because you're going to have to go out and get that fixed for it to work. So it was a little bit nerve-wracking, but I went for it. I purchased it because I knew it was going to be a good machine. And when I brought it home, in general, it looked like it was in perfect condition. But as soon as I started to try to spin, the treadle and the footman would just pop apart. And I have never had an Ashford spinning wheel. I learned on a Louette, and it's very different kind of mechanisms. But the Ashford footman and treadle are connected with a silicone dowel. And I'm not sure if someone had trouble with this particular connection in the past, but it kind of looked like the footman had been drilled out from the bottom a little bit. So what I ended up doing was I just found a screw that was the same essential diameter as the screw that the spinning wheel came with, but I changed it out for a slightly longer length. And so when I got the silicone dowel inserted and put that screw in and really tightened down, it's held ever since. And that was my only issue with the machine. Everything else was absolutely perfect, which was just a dream come true, because these machines are not cheap, and they're also fabulous machines that will last me many, many years. My first few skeins coming off the wheel, I'm not super proud of. They're very kind of inconsistent, and it just was a little bit hard going in the beginning. But I will say that I think I'm improving greatly day by day, and I'm getting much more consistent. So I'm really excited to show progress on my spinning and show you future skeins that hopefully will be much more appealing to the eye and much more consistent. My goal is to really be able to spin to a gauge. So figuring out exactly what gauge I want, and then creating that yarn for my project. I would also really, really love to engage more with local farmers and to get some fleeces and be able to spin those up and see a little bit less of that wool going into, being destroyed or burned, how it normally is these days, because there isn't a great outlet for wool currently in the Highlands. If you enjoyed my video and would like to see more in the future, please like and subscribe. Thanks so much. Have a great day.